Hey everybody. So this is the second of hopefully only two takes. It was the first one I started going off in a direction. So I'm still feeling some energy even after that very long take. So I'm going to ask for hopefully some clarity and getting this right on the nose. I wanted to mention a couple of things. First of all, I finished up with the Olympic spirits. I'm going to get to that in a second, but I wanted to start by talking about this whole idea of the. It seems like a simple point, and maybe it just, you know how sometimes certain ideas elude you, either because you're just not wired that way, or you just need things clicking into place, or things explained to you. I kind of needed this explained to me, but also I needed to actually do the one last thing. So the question is, I was worried about, or wondering about rather, why there's this emphasis on Mercury in the Hermes Trismegistus Emerald Tablet system. Specifically, now, okay, well, it's named after Hermes Trismegistus, yes, but why? Why that deity, or why that philosopher, alchemist, what have you? Why is there such an emphasis on Mercury? And I know that Justin Sledge talks about this Mercury alone theory that John Dee was probably very interested in, and it was a theory that, even though it was a small minority view, it was not unheard of. So basically, that idea is that all of the alchemical operations you work with are really just Mercury, and figuring out ways to work with Mercury such that whatever effect you're looking for happens. And okay, but it didn't quite satisfy me, and it's sort of been way in the back of my mind. But I kind of just like, I probably just don't know enough. And it turns out I kind of didn't. And the insight kind of came down to something kind of basic. So Mercury is, if you know astrology, it is not both in domicile and in exaltation, in Virgo. Now, I know this off the top of my head. I'm just having a hard time putting wordsmithing right now. So why is this? Well, Virgo is a mutable sign, meaning that it's changeable, adaptable, all that stuff. And Mercury is if you've ever seen Quicksilver, literal Mercury, it's this thing, and it's sort of at room temperature, it's a liquid, right? So really bizarre. Like, okay, most metals don't do that, but Mercury does. And so ideally, like most liquids, it would be contained, and it needs a solid container. Hence this idea of a solid, something like Earth, as opposed to air, water, whatever, something that can actually contain it. And then it can feel like, okay, it can chill out and just be itself. There's other things, another analogy, and I'm forgetting who said this. I want to say, I need to look it up whether or not it was in a Discord I was reading recently, or if it was on Astrotonor. I'll need to find that link. So Astrotonor is one. But the theory is that Mercury is so busy going every which way that it just kind of wants a place to rest, and something about the earthy sign of Virgo being a place where it can rest. I'm not sure. But the thing about it is that Virgo is a mutable sign, much like Mercury is mutable, okay? So in this place where it can go anywhere, it can be very changeable, just like the earthiness that it's in. It seems to really like that and enjoy that. Okay, so where am I going with this? Well, what's the main idea of original sin, right? Remember that you've got all of these alchemists working in all of these operations, but the thing that they have in common in medieval Europe is the dominance, the overarching dominance, of Christianity. And so with Christianity, specifically medieval Christianity, is this very dominant idea of original sin and the fall of not only man, but also, and I'm saying the term they used, humanity, we would say now, but also the fall of creation, right? The corruption of nature. And so we don't like that if we're human beings. We kind of want to, what's that phrase? We're stardust, we are golden, we are billion-year-old carbon, and we've got to find our way back to the Garden of Eden, right? How are we going to do that? Well, Christ obviously came to save us. So there's definitely that hope that that sin can be forgiven and we can have all of this. But, well, why hasn't that happened yet? Well, maybe we need to take this example of Christ. So this gets into the idea of the Monus Hieroglyphica. And there's a whole lot going on with that. And I'll link to Terry Burns's amazing series. In fact, I'll just link to her channel on the Monus Hieroglyphica, because by far it's very, I'm only a little bit of the way through it, but clearly she knows what she is talking about. A few things at the edge of the edge I may have a minor quibble with, but I'm still keeping the open mind and listening, because I really want to hear her out and decide whether or not I'm persuaded. This is academic versus, academic thinking. It's like, well, maybe I'll be persuaded. So anyway, but nonetheless, clearly one of the top D scholars out there. Put her right next to Deborah Harkness and all the rest. So anyhow, so the whole point is that the earth, the world, but specifically earth, is corrupted. So, well, how are we going to uncorrupt it? Well, maybe we need to look at this part of earth that is changeable, and therefore we can change it from being a corrupted thing to a perfected thing. So that was the main idea. So this only fell into place once it was ironic, because I wasn't sure. I was sort of in my mind make the distinction, well, of course there's a difference between planet Earth and elemental Earth, right? But it turns out that specifically reading Isaac Newton, yes, that Isaac Newton, Three Laws of Physics, reading his treatise, or his translation, of the Emerald Tablet, he is specifically translating the word elemental Earth as Terra, which we usually think of a terrestrial versus extraterrestrial, extraterrestrial outside of Earth, not from Earth, strange powers, the rest of the Superman quote. The original Superman quote, maybe the radio one. Strong power is not known to mortal man. Anyway, but anyway, not of this world, right? Extra, outside of this world, versus terrestrial, which is of this world, of Earth. So the whole idea fell into place when it's like, okay. So they literally thought that Terra as an Earth versus the heavens, celestial stuff, Colesti, or however you pronounce that, that was the exact same distinction that they were making between that you might as well have been talking about elemental Earth is like the lowest part versus the heavens, and then above that you would say, well, Earth is here, but water's above that, and then air, and then fire, if you're going by order of density, as Scott Stenwick does. So then it would all made sense. Okay, when they're talking about elemental Earth, that can be changed. They're talking about operations that can change literally the entire world that we're in via messing with elemental Earth, you see. So it was all of a piece. So anyway, I'm bringing all this up because I just worked with the last of the 7 Arbitel spirits, Ophiel. Interestingly enough, if you add the Yod, then you get Yophiel, which is actually associated with Jupiter, which rules the signs opposite the ones that Mercury does. So that's pretty cool. So interestingly, to me anyway, So anyway, so what happened? Why am I going on and on? So the first thing is the Emerald Tablet, blah, blah, blah. But specifically when I worked with Mercury, it wound up being the last of 7 days of an Arbitel operation, or a series of days in which I was just kind of calling on the spirits, asking them for the things that really you ought to be. I felt I ought to be asking for it. Let's put it that way. And I think there was some wisdom in it, because why not do the same thing that other wise folks have done before you? In this case, Solomon, known for being wise because he asked for wisdom, right? So that recognizing the value basically of wisdom and needing to learn more, needing to not just understand, but also having a way, knowing how to act in a way that is the best, including getting the information, knowledge, along with that principle of using it effectively and well for the benefit of all. So that's the sort of thing that I asked for. And I do understand absolutely the need for mundane results quick, okay? But if that's all you're going to focus your life around ever, even when you already have needs being met, and the continuation of them being met for a foreseeable time, it's going to stunt your development. Let's put it that way. Just my opinion, man. And I'm quoting Lebowski, so I'm speaking to everybody. I'm almost quoting Lebowski. The full quote is, yeah, well, that's just like your opinion, man. So anyway, back, you can tell this is a very mercurial influence. So anyway, I called upon Ophiel, and I intended to ask for the usual, please teach me things. What do you think I ought to know? Please, can you grant me wisdom? And the main thing that they kept on saying over and over again, each of these spirits, as I would call them in turn, is that the best wisdom is an embodied wisdom, which is interesting, right? We usually think of wisdom as, okay, I'm going to tell you, a stitch in time saves 9, for example, right? Or seek ye first the kingdom of God and his righteousness, right? All of these sort of things. Or, look both ways before you cross the street, right? Because otherwise. So anyhow, this time was different. This time, it was like immediately, we'll do all that stuff that you've asked for the previous spirits, but it's going to be a little different. And by the way, I'll save that for later, for the last part of this video. So, and then all of a sudden, boom, it's channeling time. And I say, okay, I consented to it. And consent is important, in a lot of things in this world. Vital, you might say, whenever there's another party involved. But I consented, and it was interesting that should happen. That does not happen to me very often. 1 out of 500 times I'm working something magical, maybe. Sounds about right. So yeah. So just be aware. Now, I might have been a little bit primed, but regardless, who cares? But the reason I say that is that a friend recommended, when he knew that I was working with the Arbitel spirits, he recommended Frater Acher's Holy Heretics. And so I did buy the book, and my friend also mentioned that there's a ritual in there that will basically call on the 7 Arbitel spirits, and then there's one thing that combines them all. It turns out that that's a version of that has already happened. Now, I'm still going to work through the book. The book is amazing. Clearly, Frater Acher is someone who knows his stuff. Okay. So very grateful to my friend Michael for recommending this, and also to Frater Acher for that. But I haven't gotten to that part in the book yet. So whatever this is sort of like mostly independent verification that calling on all 7 spirits has an added effect from just calling 1 or even calling 6. It was getting all 7. So anyway, the reason I brought up that whole thing about Mercury is that the one I called today, the last one in my order, because I started on a Thursday, so I end on a Wednesday, was Ophiel, who, if you add the Yod, you get Yophiel, who rules the signs opposite, who is an angel of Jupiter, and so would be associated with those signs, opposite those signs that are ruled by Mercury. So anyway, so somebody asked me, and this is what I wanted to get back to, somebody asked me what I do in a comment, and I went ahead and I said, well, I just use the seals and I make the prayer. And that is true, but I really ought to have added the codicil that I actually activate the Enochian furniture, because the way that I wanted to work with the spirits was to sort of, I'd like to have my spirits coordinating with each other. And in this case, the Olympic spirits, because they came in during the Enochian transmission, it's like these really should fit hand in glove. And so the model that I was using is that the Enochian angels and the hierarchy could then have a place or a way of working with the Arbitel spirits. And I didn't want to change up too much the network of Enochian angels that I have really close to my heart center. And so I have been calling up the heptarchical kings associated with the days that I am working with the spirits. And so today I called up, for example, King Benaspol, and he agreed to sort of work and coordinate with the Olympian spirits. And generally I have wanted to ask them to work with / over, who knows, in good coordination with the spirits, because I feel like, with the Olympian spirits, because I really feel like it's very important generally to have your spirits working well with each other, right? I mean, and so I just asked them, coordinate with each other, please. And I'm not necessarily telling them what to do, but in terms of how I'm working with them, I would like them to work in a way that respects all of them. And so why not ask for that, hey, as far as I'm concerned, please coordinate with each other, so that obviously I don't want, the last thing I want is for them to make each other less effective, right? What's that about? Nobody needs that. And in my mind, it's all just one thing anyway. So if you were somebody who were to psychologize this idea of spirits and spirit, and I'm not one of them, then what you would do is you would say, well, I just don't want my mind to be working in a nice non-dual space, which is true. Obviously that's the best place you can get your mind in, is nice non-dual clear light space. So this is, what else do I want to say about this? Really recommend it. Don't be surprised if you get something at the end of this. I may have also just been more open to this just because, one final word. By the way, I still believe that this is probably true, that really all you need is like the seals. So this is, sorry, we had to take our cat in this morning, so I was thinking about doing this in the car, and long story short, this thing got crumpled as a result of me taking this into the car. But this is a good spirit to have with you because Mercury rules transportation, so that went okay. But really, I do believe you just probably need to make the seals, and then you can just say the prayer in the Arbitel. It's one of the aphorisms in the 20s. But yeah, call all 7 in a week. Yowza. I dare say I've lucked into this / was guided to start on this on a Thursday and then end on a Wednesday, because I think there's probably a case to be made that Ophiel is definitely at the heart of this. Just because we have this gender fluid, let's put it that way, entity. And by the way, that was the day chart spirits that I mentioned last time. Those of the Sun, Mars, and Jupiter presented to me as male. The night chart spirits, Moon, Venus, and Saturn, they presented to me as female. And it's specifically, I was told to say the prayer for this spirit to arrive, changing up the not only the gender, so switching from, that she may appear and, grant me that and teach me stuff, and that he, and then the same prayer changing the next line to he, but also them. But also, interestingly, I was told to be mercurial about whether or not I'm in the way that I approach it. Sometimes saying the prayer, and this already happened a couple times. Sometimes I was told, okay, say the prayer, but now sing it, and now say it again, now sing it. But this one really wanted it to be different. So partway through, I'm singing it, switching back to saying it. But then it was almost like I was told to sort of sing it like in a jazz pattern, or in a slightly, don't do it like necessarily at a hymnal at a church, or you might hear, let's say, like a Catholic priest at a mass, sort of singing and that sort of thing. But instead, all of a sudden, putting in some jazz notes like that, I went for it, that's fine. And yeah, it was kind of interesting. And it was trying to get that mercurial side going in me. So anyway, with actual transiting Mercury now coming up on Saturn, I've obviously gone at length. So if you have any questions about this, let me know. I know this kind of went all over the place, but since it was a little unexpected, like I said, I hadn't read in Frater Acker's big ritual combining them, but I think I happened on a version of it. I'm still going to work on that. But I wanted to share this just because it felt kind of unique. By the way, with these, I basically used a ruler and a compass. As needed, I used a compass. I really just can't recommend that enough. Like, you try to use the tools that they did and things will sort of become apparent. This one, it was, okay, what's the proportions? I took in my iPhone and I'm measuring with the ruler up against that. But the proportions, you get a seal very close to this. So please don't think that I'm an amazing artist. This is strictly speaking, ideally I would have had a protractor or one of those L-shaped things that you see in the masonry. Clearly I'm not a Freemason. But you get the idea. So anyway, 10 out of 10 recommend. Really, ironically enough, a pretty easy system to work with given the power. I really think that although it's advisable to, you can always, latch on something else, but I think this is a really easy, a very deceptively easy thing to work with. So I do recommend it. I would say a beginner could get a lot out of the Arbitel with not that much overhead. Again, just being a good person and then following the instructions as it is. Pray, make the seals, pray. Pray about who knows how many times. I went about 5 or 6 times, and if you're energetically sensitive, you know exactly when it's on, when you've made contact. So anyway, love to you all on a Wednesday night. I am planning on there's a few things I need to review, specifically yesterday's and today's messages. Because I'm still feeling that a little bit, but I want to make sure that I've heard everything, and I will get a chance tomorrow to do that. But then what's up next is a Jebafal 2.0 ritual. When I did this first in 21, I was given, I figured that would like be it. Okay, I've done it, blah, blah, blah. But as with so many things, the angels have said that, okay, now do it this time, but use these other things. So in this case, the Book of Silvered Leaves, and we'll see, but so that's coming up. In addition to everything else, didn't get as much of a chance today to work on the mandala, but that is still happening. I have, again, the cat had her emergency. I'm hoping that she's going to be okay. And that's about it. So, and just by the way, I do want to say that this stuff is doable just because I've been dealing with some personal stuff. It's okay to focus on yourself if that happens, but know that spirit will still be there, and don't feel like, just because things aren't going, even if things are really hard, and they have been incredibly hard for me the last few weeks, just know that, just allow for the passage of time. Let yourself feel all the things. I've been incredibly sad on a number of levels, but I also know that, it's a cliche to say time heals all wounds, but really it's just your heart needs to process it, and it needs time to do that. And eventually it can finish, and it will be, it will have felt what it needs to feel. Okay. And I'm speaking as somebody who's been relatively upfront about his bipolar, and it's just something that, there's that's an n-dimensional balancing act in and of itself. Luckily, I don't have a horribly severe case of it, in my opinion. But that being said, just make room for yourself, and remember too, like when you are considering either helping others or helping yourself, really it's one and the same. So, it's another one of those non-dual things. Ultimately, we're all one. We really are. So, okay. I think that's it. All right. Love y'all. Talk to you later.